I've been living the van life for about 11 years now in extreme climates. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about the pros and cons of truck campers, vans, and RVs. And finally, I'm gonna tell you guys why I would recommend choosing a truck camper versus a van or a motorhome. So let's get to it. For those of you that have never heard of van life, it's basically where you just live and travel in your vehicle full time on the road. Van life has been absolutely blowing up the last few years, and a lot of you guys are probably looking for the perfect vehicle to make your van life a reality. Really briefly, I'm gonna talk about my personal experience living on the road full time in truck campers, motorhomes, and vans. I have a small cabin that I built with my dad in Alaska now, but prior to that, I was actually living on the road full time for about 11 years. In those 11 years, I owned a Toyota 4x4 motorhome, and I've owned this truck camper right here. So what are the pros of a truck camper? Why do I think a truck camper is better than a van or a motorhome? I'm gonna tell you straight up that a truck camper is by far the most versatile vehicle you can have for living the van life. Number one, you can find a 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive truck almost anywhere, and you can get them pretty cheap. And once you have your truck, all you need is a truck camper to slide into the back of it, and you're good to go. A truck in general is obviously a lot more rugged than a van and definitely more rugged than a motorhome. So it's going to allow you to go deeper into the back roads, deeper down the gravel roads. You can even get into some crazy off-roading stuff. Off-roading in a truck camper is obviously not really fast. You can't just take off blasting down the road. You have to take everything pretty slow on off-road trails because number one, you don't want to jumble your stuff all around in the truck camper. And number two, a truck camper is obviously a little top heavy as with a van or an RV/motorhome. So you have to take it really slow and keep your rocking down to a minimum. Most vans and motorhomes are 2-wheel drive. You might be able to find a 4-wheel drive one, or if you pay a lot of money, like for a 4x4 Sprinter van, you can get a 4x4 one, but you're gonna be spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on this 4-wheel drive van or 4-wheel drive motorhome versus a cheap 4-wheel drive truck. So perhaps the biggest advantage to a truck camper is if anything happens to your truck, if you break down, if you wreck the truck, if something happens, you can remove the truck camper from the truck and put the truck into the shop to be repaired, and you can still live in your truck camper. That's a massive advantage because if you have a van and you wreck your van, or if your van breaks down, guess what? Your van's going into the shop, which means your home is going into the shop, which means you're out of a place to stay and out of a vehicle. Double whammy. The same thing with a motorhome. A motorhome, your house is obviously attached to your truck permanently. So if anything happens to the motorhome at all, you're obviously going to be stuck where you're at and waiting until the repair happens in the motorhome. So obviously truck campers are removable. They just slide into your truck bed and out of your truck bed. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend getting electric camper jacks for your truck bed camper. And the reason being is you can press one button and the entire system will lift the truck camper off of the bed and you can drive out from under it. When you're ready to put it back in, you press one button, lowers all the camper jacks down, which allows the truck camper to sit back in your bed. So it makes it really seamless, really safe, and really easy. I have owned mechanical jacks in the past, and I absolutely do not recommend them. You will have to pay a lot more for electric camper jacks, but I'd highly recommend them if you can afford them. Just put that in your budget. You'll thank me later. Another huge advantage to a truck camper is you can build them for extreme weather, which means they're going to handle extreme cold a lot better than a van or a motorhome. I've spent about 20 years in Alaska now, and half of that time I've been living in truck campers and motorhomes. And I can tell you right now, the most important part about your build is going to be the insulation and what the outside of the vehicle is wrapped in. The truck campers are traditionally built with wood and have fiberglass on the outside. The one upside to a van is it does have solid walls that are usually made of metal, usually steel, and the outside of the van is obviously wrapped in steel. So that makes a nice solid wall and makes it really waterproof. But the big thing that most people don't think about is steel actually sweats a lot more than wood and fiberglass in really cold or extreme climates. If you heat up the inside of your van and it's really cold on the outside, that steel is a really fast conductor, and the change in temperature happens too fast in between the walls of your van, which makes it sweat, which introduces moisture inside of your van walls, which introduces mold. Truck campers actually have better insulation than vans for the most part, and you can even find truck campers that are built for all year round, 4-season, extreme winter environments. Most of the time, the outside of the truck camper is skinned with fiberglass, and fiberglass simply doesn't sweat as bad as metal like a van does, so I'd highly recommend a fiberglass outside if you're gonna be staying in extremely cold environments. RVs and motorhomes are built pretty similar to truck campers. They're typically framed with wood, and they typically have a fiberglass skin in the outside to make it waterproof. However, a motorhome and RV is usually a lot larger than a truck camper, so you're trying to heat more space, and it's just going to be draftier and not be as cozy and warm as a smaller truck camper in extreme cold. Another pro to a truck camper is they're actually safer to be in. A truck camper is up higher off the ground because it's sitting in a four-wheel drive truck, and it takes a lot more effort to get into a truck camper. So if you're staying in cities and places that might be a little bit sketchy, a little dangerous, you actually have an extra margin of safety because it takes more effort for someone to break into your camper, and you'd be able to hear them coming, as opposed to just walking up to your van and sliding open the door or breaking a window really easily. Another huge advantage of truck campers is you're probably going to be able to buy a truck and a camper cheaper than buying a van or a motorhome. You can find a two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive truck about anywhere, and you can usually find a pretty cheap truck camper to slide into that truck. On the other hand, if you want to buy a built-out van or a motorhome, you're going to be spending more money. A lot of these four-wheel drive Sprinter van combos or four-wheel drive Ford Transit vans, you're spending upwards of $80,000 to $150,000 or even more than that. It gets pretty crazy. Motorhome's the same way. It's not going to be cheap, and you're going to be spending a lot more on fuel on a motorhome than you will with a truck camper or a van. So let's talk about downsides. What are the cons of a truck camper? I'd say the number one con of owning a truck camper is having to remove the truck camper and put it back in. The whole process is a little bit scary, especially the first time you do it. If you don't take your time and use the right equipment to remove your truck camper and put it back on, you can definitely mess your truck camper up and potentially even drop it when you're trying to load it. So that's probably the biggest downfall to owning a truck camper, is getting it in and out of your vehicle. If you're planning on doing that a lot, just make sure you buy electric jacks like I was saying before. And while it can be a good thing, the other downside to a truck camper is it's made of wood. So if you're in the market for one, you have to pay really close attention to the walls of the camper and make sure they're not warped, make sure there's no water damage. You don't have to deal with that with a van as much. It's going to be steel and aluminum, so you're going to have straight walls in a van. And if you purchase a van, you don't really have to worry about the straight wall thing because you're dealing with all aluminum and all metal, so everything's pretty solid. Overall, the benefits of owning a truck camper far outweigh the downsides of the truck camper, and I would highly recommend checking out a truck camper if you're in the market to do the van life thing and you're looking around for a vehicle. You kind of can't go wrong, so I would highly suggest looking into it. A truck camper is going to allow you to get to places that you couldn't dream of going in a van or a motorhome, at least most vans and motorhomes. And you're just going to be able to get out and do a little bit more of what you want to do off the beaten path. Anyhow, guys, I hope the video has been helpful in showing you why you should maybe pick a truck camper instead of a van or a motorhome. But please remember that the perfect van life vehicle is going to be different for everyone because everyone has different needs. So take all that into consideration when you're shopping around for your vehicle. If you guys have any questions or any comments, make sure to drop them down below in the comments section, and I'll try my best to get back to you. And that's a wrap. Make sure to smash that like button down there if this video was helpful, and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace, y'all.